What's going on, people? It is Irish Connor HD here, you can call me Irish, and today I thought I would talk a little bit about Formula 1 and what's been going on in the sport lately and kind of just different things that have kind of piqued my interest, basically. In case you didn't know, not only am I into drifting, I'm into racing and Formula 1 and cars in general and that kind of thing, so it was something that was interesting to me. You're going to just be watching some Assetto Corsa, basically just different tracks, different Formula 1 cars that are mods, modded F1 cars, which is kind of a part of the topic for today. So, also I'll leave a link in the description to the websites where you can find these cars if you want them yourself, the cars and the tracks. Not to the specific ones because that would take ages obviously to go and find them, but to the general websites where you can find them. Basically, the one thing that's kicked this off for me today is a headline on the /r/Formula 1 subreddit, and the headline is FOM Formula 1 Management removes 30 pages of free mods from race department for Automobilista F1 2013 and F1 2014. Basically what they did was they went in through these three games, they took all the mods for the game, for the licenses that they own, so obviously they own like the licenses that they lend out to Codemasters and that kind of thing. I'm not sure about Automobilista though, don't know what the deal with that is, why they went for these three specifically and not things like Assetto Corsa, Project Cars, or Factor, that kind of thing, why they didn't go after those mods. Maybe that's still to come, maybe they're still just trying to get their legal ground on that since they don't own the licenses behind the actual games. But yeah, so basically what they did was they went in, as I said, 30 pages of free mods have been taken down. So if you own F1 2013 or F1 2014 and you like that game, you like the physics, you like playing that, but you just, instead of buying the new one, instead of buying a new version every year, if you just like that game's physics and that kind of thing, and you just want to get new models of this year's car and the new skins and that liveries, that kind of thing, new drivers or whatever like that's basically, from what I can tell, what the mods were, for the most part. So, obviously, they are fully within their legal right. Like, it goes without saying, like, these are their properties, they do own these copyrights and trademarks and whatever. But it's just an astoundingly mind-boggling thing to do. If nothing else, if absolutely nothing else, it's free advertising. And that's like a point that gets made often when it comes to this kind of thing, like modded content, whether it should be, like when it's modded content of like copyrighted stuff. Like, if nothing else, it's free advertising. Fair enough, the obvious common sense answer is nobody's buying F1 2015 or 2016 because they're still playing 2013 and 2014, but like with mods, obviously. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of reasons why it's right what they did and why they, like, it makes sense. But on the other hand, it's just the latest in the string of just mind-boggling decisions from the people running Formula 1, whether it's Formula 1 management, what is the other one that's, it's escaping me now, but basically, just in general, they've made a heap of just bizarre decisions lately. The rule changes, so, if you don't know, 2 seasons ago, basically, they changed from V8 engines, high revving engines that gave that classic Formula 1 high-pitched sound, to V6 hybrid engines. Massive change, nobody really asked for it, except for the sport was, like, the cost of running teams and stuff like that in the sport was pretty high, but they decided to change the rules on that. Nobody asked for it, nobody's really particularly big fans of it, as far as fans go, obviously. The teams obviously have their different opinions and stuff like that, but yeah, that was the first big kind of sweeping change in the last 2 or 3 years. Then they had, what was it? They've had a few different things. They've had the engine changes. Then this year they brought in, for example, new tyres, a new set of tyres, new strategy for tyres. The amount, or like the Ultra Sauce, I think they call them. They brought in. They were considering a fuel limit, on like bringing in introducing a fuel limit, and then there was also the qualifying, which is the most recent thing that has people kind of on like up in arms, sort of. They changed the qualifying for the first race of this season. Now, it's very confusing, which is one of the reasons... Not very confusing. Once you like kind of wrap your head around it, it makes sense. But basically, it went from being a thing of... You had, I think it was like, say for example, it was like 10 minutes in qualifying 3, 10 minutes in qualifying... Or, yeah, like 10 minutes, just say as an example. I think it might have actually been like a half an hour or an hour or something like that. But, yeah, you've a set amount of time in qualifying 3, qualifying 2, and qualifying 1. If you're in the bottom, say, 5 at the end of qualifying 3, you get knocked out. Then it's down to the remaining 15. If you're in the bottom 5 in the qualifying 2, you get knocked out. And then it's basically a shootout between the top 10. You have that, again, for example, 10 minutes to set a time. And by the end of the 10 minutes, if you have whatever time you've set, basically is where you finish the race. So if you set the fastest time after qualifying 3, you'll start the race first on pole position. If you started the slowest, you'll finish 10th, or you'll start the race in 10th. Sorry. But what they did for this season was they decided to change it up so that it was a constant knockout thing, with the idea being that if there was a constantly ticking timer, it would make teams want to put their cars out more, like they like to have more action out on the track. Amazingly enough, the absolute complete and utter opposite happened. Lewis Hamilton claimed pole position in Melbourne for the first race of the season with, I think it was like 7 minutes left, and I think within the last 3 to 5 minutes there wasn't any cars on track. Every single driver had gotten out of their cars with 3 to 5 minutes of qualifying remaining, which is just insane. It's not acceptable whatsoever. For the poor fans that actually made their way out there and were all excited for a big, close, like, final duel for qualifying, to be left sitting there, like, people were going home with 3 to 5 minutes of the event left. People were heading off, leaving the trackside. So that's just another insane decision that they made that nobody asked for. Nobody had a problem with qualifying. Yeah, obviously it's not as exciting as it potentially could be, but like this was just a ridiculous decision that no thought was put into, and they decided to implement. Then the final thing then that kind of really caught my attention recently was last week, Sky Sports here in the UK, here in Ireland and the UK, Sky Sports will have exclusive rights to show Formula 1 live in the UK from 2019. So in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, Sky Sports will have exclusive rights to every single race. And from what I'm reading, it's literally exclusive. Like, whereas we usually have Channel 4 or BBC or Setanta here in Ireland, apparently, if I'm reading this correctly, it will literally just be, if you don't have Sky Sports F1, you don't get to see the races. I think, except maybe for the British Grand Prix in Silverstone. But yeah, that's a thing that's happened. It's been announced on Sky News. I remember watching it at the time when it was announced a couple of days ago, last week I think. Nonsense, absolutely insane, mind-boggling. Like, fair enough, Sky might have been paying them a higher price, but you're like, say if we're gonna say like 4 channels: Sky, BBC, Channel 4, and Setanta, for example. If you're cutting down the viewership from 3 other channels and hoping that all those viewers will sign up for a Sky Sports F1 subscription, you are fucking insane. Like, it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody, again, it's a thing that universally nobody seems to be on board with it. Nobody seems to think it was a good idea. Like, they're their own worst enemy. How stupid could they be? It was mind-boggling when I read that. And then here's the problem, right? So, what the funny thing is, wait for the statements now in 2019, 2020. Wait till the statements comes out when they're like, oh, announcing these massive rule changes because there's low interest in the sport and no viewership on the TV. Fans just aren't watching. It mustn't be entertaining. Like, fans just aren't intrigued. No! Like, between taking away all the excitement of the noise and the kind of the visual, like, visceral aspect of the sport by changing the engines, by cutting off tracks like this year, next year, there's a good chance we're not going to have the Monza Italian GP, which is quite frankly insane. All of this they're doing, like, all of these different things that are just ruining the sport, and yet, like, it will come down to, just people aren't watching, the sport's not exciting anymore. We better bring in, like, spiked tires or something. Like, whatever. You never know what they're going to come up with, like something as ridiculous as that. Then there's the whole thing with the Halo cockpit concept, going with the, like, again, we get it, driver safety, very important, stuff like that, but like ruining the visual beauty, it's the whole perception of the sport as like the pinnacle of motorsport, speed and sound and visuals and that kind of thing. Like, we're going to be having these things with stupid halos hanging off the top of them, like, and quiet engines and like on one station, like, and then even if you are, so I'm going to wrap it up here because we're about 10 minutes in, so even if you are a big fan and you do stick through all of this and you want to play a game after a race, you're all stoked up and you want to go and play your game, but maybe you can't afford 2016, F1 2016 or 2017 or whatever whatever it's going to be. But you have a copy of 2013, 2014. You want to sit down and play it with some mods and stuff like that? You can't, because, well, just because that they are so out of touch, they're so outdated, it's mind-boggling. I do not understand how they can be so thick. Like, I get, like, it's a load of old white men, probably. It's one of those stereotypical things, like Bernie Eccleston and a load of old white men, just like, raw, not really in touch of, like, how to maximize, like, the kind of attention and what makes it exciting and interesting and stuff like that, and being stubborn and not involving fans and not involving drivers, like young drivers that know what they're talking about when it comes to this kind of stuff, just walling themselves off, closing themselves into a stuffy old office and trying to come up with all these different rules and tire changes and qualification changes and all that kind of thing, trying to make it exciting. Like, they're just so beyond out of touch, it's not even funny. But that's it. I didn't really have a point with any of that. I just wanted to share my opinion, basically, and my just rant a little bit, because it's something that I've been reading about for the last week or two, been thinking about since the end of last season, since the end of the V8 era. It's been something that's just kind of going over in my head, and I haven't really got a chance to vent about it. So yeah, Formula 1 is in a good spot. The first race, now I will say this, the first race of the year was fantastic. It was one of the best races I've seen in a while, actually. Action up and down the track. Obviously the big accident, we had some excitement there. Obviously, thankfully Fernando Alonso was okay. Yeah, so the actual on-track racing isn't actually that bad. It's just, as a fan and as somebody who's involved in the sport, everything going on around the outside is just infuriating, and just, I needed to vent for a bit. So that's it. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new here. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.